Alright everyone, welcome back to another Dead Talk Q&A. I see Animated Alex is already on the chat. Thank you very much for joining, Animated Alex. Thank you for the support. We'll just give it a few minutes for people to join. Again, this is another spontaneous Q&A like the last several have been. Hopefully people will be able to join. I did post a little something earlier saying that I'm going to go live, or I might go live, so some people may have seen that. Anyway, we have a few people on the chat already. No other questions yet, but feel free to ask your questions. I'm only here for like an hour or so. I'm not going to stick around too long, but decided might as well just join up and see where everyone's at, how we're feeling about the Walking Dead universe. There's been lots of I would say backlash after Scott Gimple's comments, so we can chat a little bit about that. As always, let me know if you can hear me good and see me good, or if there's any issues with the chat. Animated Alex says, what do you think of Dead City Season 2? Dead City Season 2, I think if you've seen my reactions, you probably know, but I think it was underwhelming, and I'm not even gonna, if I'm being fair, I think it was slightly better than Season 7 of The Walking Dead's original show. That's how, underwhelming it was. So far, I think Dead City Season 2 is the weakest season of any spin-off in the Walking Dead universe so far. There was only in an entire 6 episodes, right? 6 episode season. Maybe there was 10 minutes of good content in the entire 6 episodes, 6 hours. And I think many fans are extremely disappointed with season 2. While we're waiting for more people to join, I do want to, plug something. We do have some, I don't know if anyone even knows, but we do have some new items on the merch site for the channel. Some cool designs. I'll put a link up so you can go check it out if you're interested to get some of those. If you're a Last of Us fan or Walking Dead fan, I think it'll be interesting for you to, or you'll find them interesting, I should say. Animated Alex, do you think we could get, or wait, I read that wrong. Do you think we could still get a Daryl and Rick reunion in the Walking Dead Dixon show? Yes, we could, but I can't believe I'm saying it, but I think it's too late. I think it's way too late for any type of real reunion or meaningful reunion. Oh, by the way, sorry about the mess in the background. There's tons of things going around in the room itself and everywhere in the house. So, sorry about the background looking a little messier than usual. Animated Alex, yeah, season 2 of Dead City was a letdown, which sucks since season 1 was pretty good in my opinion. I've heard a lot of people say season 1 was good, and honestly, I wouldn't say it was the greatest either. When it comes to Walking Dead spin-offs, maybe it was one of the strongest ones, but if you compare it to the original show, I don't think it was it came anywhere close to touching any of the even mid-level Walking Dead episodes or seasons of the original show. I would say season 1 of Dead City was maybe slightly better than season 8 of The Walking Dead. That's how I would kind of put it as far as the ranking in my own head. But I do know a lot of people did enjoy that season. Maybe a lot of it has to do with Negan. Negan's definitely one of the most popular characters that is still around. So I think not just Negan, but I think Jeffrey Dean Morgan's Negan is one of the main reasons why people enjoyed the first season of Dead City as much as they did. Animated Alex, the CRM was the most wasted potential in the Walking Dead universe. Yes, absolutely. I think maybe I lied. Dead City Season 2 was slightly better than the Walking Dead World Beyond. Not World Beyond, sorry. The Walking Dead The Ones Who Live. And I think if you factor Rick out of that story, it's the worst thing ever. Because you get nothing. Like, there's no meat in the show. You know what I mean? 5 years of teasing something, and I feel like they only maybe answered 5% of it. So, the biggest letdown, I agree. One of the biggest letdowns in the Walking Dead universe in general. And not just because of what it was. Like, if they gave that to us maybe 6 months, a year after Andrew Lincoln left in the original show, that would have been fine, right? But 5 years. We waited 5 years for that. Animated Alex. The Walking Dead Season 7 and 8 was better than any of the spin-offs combined. I could see that. Yeah, I could definitely see that. Now, don't get me wrong. All of the spin-offs that we're talking about, they do have some standout moments. Not scenes, even, or episodes, or seasons, but standout scenes. But overall, yeah, I think Season 7 and 8 was probably slightly better than most of the spin-offs that we've seen so far. And yeah, obviously, like I said earlier, the comments made by Scott Gimple that just, pushed fans over the edge. And for those that missed it, go check out my last video that I did, but it boils down to Scott Gimple saying the timelines don't necessarily need to make sense, they are dreamlike, or something to that effect. So yeah, like years of us speculating about certain things that they're teasing, or certain things that don't matter, or not matter, don't make sense. It seems like it doesn't matter, because he's like, we're just winging it, basically. Animated Alex, I did not like that Rick lost his hand in The Ones Who Live. It feels like a moment that happened way too late in the franchise. Absolutely, I 100% agree with you on that. I feel like it was for shock value more than anything else. Like, even when I saw it, I enjoyed it for what it was, but I remember saying when it was coming up that it's way too late. Yes, it's a cool moment, but it's way too late. So I definitely see where you're coming from. Animated Alex, Gimple needs to be fired, like I said in your video. I mean, let's think back about everything that Scott Gimple has done right. And think about when that was. So, it's been years since Scott Gimple did anything meaningful in the franchise, anything substantial. It's just been filler. It's been filler for quite a long time. I would even argue that after the Whispers arc, everything has had like 60% filler in it, even in the original show. And after the original show, it went to up to like 90% filler. And I feel like that type of storytelling is not gonna get the universe far. Animated Alex, he hasn't done anything good since season 4 and 5. Now I don't know how much he was involved in season 9 and 10, but there were some strong stories in season 9 and 10. And maybe it was Angela Kang mostly and not Gimple, but if we're looking at strictly Gimple, yes, absolutely. Season 4, 5, 6. Strongest era of the Walking Dead universe in general. If you factor out the season 1, because that's just a phenomena on its own. So season 4, 5, 6. I would say more 5 and 6 were the top of the Walking Dead. That was the best Walking Dead era. And who was involved back then? It was Gimple. So, yeah, Gimple was a part of the best of the Walking Dead. But what has he done since? You know what I mean? Animated Alex, Old Walking Dead was peak. Yes, absolutely. Old Walking Dead gave The Last of Us a run for its money. Like, if you want to compare season, let's say even season 4 or 5 or 6 of The Walking Dead, even season 9, compare it to season 1 or 2 of Last of Us, it's not even a fair comparison. Now, a fair comparison is Last of Us, both seasons with like Dead City or Daryl Dixon, I think. Those are fair comparisons. Animated Alex, The Last of Us series ain't got nothing on The Walking Dead. Yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone who loves The Walking Dead and The Last of Us at their best is gonna disagree with that. Because Last of Us TV show, it's not it. It's just not it. But the games, you know, I would argue The Last of Us Part 1 is in some ways better than The Walking Dead at its peak, or even like season 1 Walking Dead. Because the story is more intimate. The story is much more bigger, you know? With Walking Dead, it was just Rick and his family. And obviously, you could argue that Last of Us was Joel and his family, but the implications of the story of The Last of Us was much, much bigger. So, yeah. Not that anyone asked me to compare, but The Last of Us Part 1, I would say, at least in my opinion, it's slightly better than even season 1 of The Walking Dead's original show. Now, I'm not going to compare it to the comic book because that's a different medium. Like the game and TV and a TV show are, or a game and a TV show are closer to compare against than a comic book and a video game. Animated Alex, Abby killing Joel was Negan killing Glenn and Abraham. Yeah, I've done videos on that. There's a lot of similarities. I mean, here's the thing. People don't want to hear this from either side. Both sides, when I bring up one of these two things, they go defensive mode. But The Last of Us, Part 2, Joel falling onto the rebar, was copied by The Walking Dead. Rick Grimes falling onto the rebar. That was a copy. That was a direct copy. Similar, Negan killing Abe and Glenn was copied by The Last of Us Part 2, with Abby killing Joel with the golf club. It's almost like a copy-paste. Like, every angle of it that you look at, it's the same thing. Animated Alex, I do of course prefer the Walking Dead version of it. Yeah, I mean, like Joel, Abby versus Glenn, Abe, Negan scene. Yeah, I definitely see what you're going for, or what you're saying. The Walking Dead was more emotional, obviously way more in the comics than the show even, and the only reason for that is the cliffhanger that they did and the double kill that they did. I mean, the double kill was just for shock value, and they kind of put themselves in a corner doing that later on with Negan's character. But like I said, the comic was even more impactful than the TV show. And obviously, the TV show, or The Last of Us, like what they did, that was similar, was less impactful than The Walking Dead's TV version even. But I am curious though, what people think of the state of the universe of The Walking Dead right now. Because I did put a poll up, and I was actually shocked about the results. So I posted, which do you agree with most? The Walking Dead sucks now, and The Walking Dead is still great. So very, very polar opposite responses. And from the 33 people that voted on that so far, 67% think The Walking Dead is still great. That definitely shocked me, because if we look at fan consensus right now and where fans stand about the Walking Dead universe right now, you see almost the opposite. Fans are hating most things about the universe right now. So it's interesting. I mean, obviously it's only 33 people, and it's a smaller community of people who may have kind of seen that, but at the same time, it was surprising to me. Animated Alex, do you think there will be a season 2 of The Ones Who Live, even though it's unlikely? No, I don't think so. Fans want it. Some fans want it. I don't think it has the same impact anymore. I don't think it matters anymore. Like, let's just skip The Ones Who Live. Let's give us, and even that's too late, but give us like a reunion with everyone, like a limited series with everyone involved. Close everything out. Any loose ends, try to get it done, and just move on. But yeah, unlikely, extremely unlikely. 99% chance that it won't happen. Animated Alex, I think the Walking Dead universe feels dry and stale. It absolutely does. There is no more originality. There's no more. There's nothing there. It's just rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat of the same stories over and over and over again. You're just taking the face of the villain, putting another villain on top of that, and then having them go against one of the other heroes. And that seems to be the new seasons of the spin-offs. It's this bad guy versus Negan and Maggie, or this bad guy versus Negan, or this bad guy versus Maggie, or this bad guy facing Daryl, this bad guy facing Carol, and Daryl and Carol, and it's oh, the bad guy is in New York now, the bad guy is in Europe now, the bad guy is in this place now. So it's like the same things. If we look at where The Walking Dead ended with the Commonwealth, you kind of go, where is that going? What happened there? Because that's naturally where the stories should start from. All of the stories after the original, but none did. And it feels like they just threw that out the window. It's like, who cares about Commonwealth? We want these spin-offs to do their own thing, and it's just, yeah, I'm gonna start ranting if I keep going. But yeah, Animated Alex, I just voted The Walking Dead sucks now. Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I would have voted as well. And that's the thing. It's about now. It's not about the best of The Walking Dead. It's now. Where is it right now? Animated Alex. Personally, I feel like it gave Rick's story was finished in the show. No need to keep it going. Yeah, exactly. The Ones Who Live ended Rick's story. So that was that. The CRM story was ruined. It was butchered. Absolutely butchered. Yeah, it closed Rick's story, but it butchered CRM story. And the CRM story was only relevant because of Rick. So factor Rick out of it, no one even cares. So if you want to do another spin-off with CRM, no one's going to care. And think, if you do a CRM story, it's not going to be able to continue. It's limited because it ends with Rick taking it over or taking it down or whatever. Animated Alex. The Walking Dead needs to end, and we have no Walking Dead content for a long time, then we can get a reboot. I don't even think a reboot, like, I don't even would like a reboot. Like, you mean like a reboot from the beginning? I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that works. It's like, it doesn't matter. The story's already done. The story's told. If it was me, what I would have done is, yes, just no Walking Dead for a few years, and then give us a story with brand new characters, years down the line, in terms of the timeline of the story, and then give us that perspective. What's happening 10, 20, 30 years after the apocalypse? Not 10, because we've seen that, but like 30, 20, 30, 40 years after the apocalypse. Where are some of these characters? Give us some backstory of some things that we must have gotten, but we didn't. Like the military aspect of things, like the government aspect of things, like the finding a cure aspect of things. They've teased at all of these here and there throughout the Walking Dead universe, but nothing concrete enough to really give us any answers. It's not even appetizers, most of what they've given us. So I think that's what we need in the universe. We no longer need to see survivors surviving by going from one community that fails to another community that fails. We need to go way beyond that in where we are in the universe right now. Animated Alex. Daryl Dixon Season 2 wasted the Variant Walker arc. And wasted and resolved too quickly. What was even the point of setting this up in Season 11? I was never a fan of the variants. Never. Because that's not what The Walking Dead was. The Walking Dead was grounded. More grounded. That's what made it different than the Black Summers and the World War Z's and the 28 years later or 28 days later and all of that. That's what made it unique. It was different types of walkers. It was more OG walkers. It was more, slower walkers. It was more than just about the walkers. But I think here's the problem. At some point, that became boring because the walkers were no longer that much of a threat. They already did the hordes of walkers. You can't go bigger than Alpha's mega horde. So after you hit that, then there's no more originality. There's no more interest in the walkers. So they had to reinvent the wheel and, bring some shocker in, which is the fast variant walkers. So even though I was never a fan of it, because I don't think it was what The Walking Dead was meant to do or what it was, I understood why they did it because of what I just said. But with that said, you're right. You're absolutely right. They set it up. They set it up almost to perfection. Yes, it was a little unrealistic that they just popped up, yes, I would give them that, or I would give people that saying that. But then after that, when you did introduce them, the setup was almost flawless. And then in Daryl Dixon, factoring out, like I said, the thing that I don't like variants in The Walking Dead, but just putting that aside, I loved what they did with the Daryl Dixon variants of these walkers. But they didn't do anything else with it. It was just a one episode and that's it, or 2 episodes and that's it. And I think that was wasted potential for sure. Animated Alex, if The Walking Dead get a reboot, I don't want AMC to make him because they'll mess it up. I would be interested in a reboot on another network. Now, I would have said HBO before, but with The Last of Us and what they did with what HBO did with The Last of Us, I'm not even gonna say that again. But it would be interesting to see another network do not a reboot, but their interpretation of a story in that universe. You know what I mean? But again, it's never gonna happen because AMC's never gonna let go of The Walking Dead. They have the rights in a way. Let me make sure I read this name right. Synthlove DNA. I hope I said that right. Greetings from Spain. Greetings from Canada. Thank you for joining the stream. Animated Alex. Yes, I liked your idea of military spin-off. It sounds better than what we're currently getting. Yeah, I mean, there's tons of potential stories that haven't been touched. How did the government fall? How did the military fall? What happened with the cure that they were searching for? How did it originate? What was the origin of the Walker virus or the zombie virus? Many, many others. Like, for example, I'm sure that there were some mega rich people who exist in real life who had bunkers, who were anticipating a zombie outbreak or an outbreak or something. I'm sure they're in the bunkers, so what happened to them? Where are they? And every time they do something like that, though, even if it's a small portion of it or in a small scale, they always end up being like cult leaders. But that shouldn't be. You don't always have these people who are in bunkers being, cults, involved in cults or being a cult leader. You know what I mean? Like, there was one movie, I think Cloverfield something, I remember. That story was absolutely phenomenal. Imagine that type of story for a Walking Dead spin-off. That would have been crazy. That would have been great. Now, that being said, they did something similar to that. And I don't know why I'm looking at my mic, but they did something similar to that in one of the Tales episodes, the Terry Crews episode. That episode was trash, but the concept I liked. That's the type of concept in a spin-off that I would like to see. But they're never going to do it. They're never going to do it, anything remotely close to it. Animated Alex. Now, I'm glad HBO did not even pick up The Walking Dead. Yeah, absolutely. I heard this from somewhere. I don't know where I heard it from, but I think it was Ronnie Hayes from Make a Path Presents who said that he read from somewhere or someone told him that HBO said, we'll pick up Walking Dead, but there should be no zombies. Can we have the zombies can we just hear the zombies instead of seeing them? Or something to that effect. And yeah, that tells you now everything you need to know. But again, we didn't really think that would happen or something like that would be taking place, like that type of conversation, because we always think HBO is done amazing TV show or been a part of amazing TV shows like Game of Thrones and all of that, You would think they must be crazy, to to do that. But look at Last of Us. I mean, it's almost like exactly that. They didn't want to see the infected because we didn't see a lot of infected in season 1. They changed that slightly, not even 100%, but slightly in season 2, but there was barely any infected in season 1 and 2. Why do you think that is? Do you think if it was The Walking Dead, like think that was The Walking Dead, and that's the number of walkers that we saw in an entire season? That would be crazy. That's not Walking Dead anymore. That's a drama. Okay, we'll probably go for another maybe 15 minutes or so. But Animated Alex has been on top, asking great questions, supporting the channel as always. So I appreciate that, Animated Alex. He's one of the OG subscribers on the channel. So yeah, definitely appreciate the support and you showing up and pumping up great questions to keep the chat going. Another one from Animated Alex. The Walking Dead without walkers is like saying The Sopranos should not have mobsters in it. How are you going to have zombie show without zombies in it? Exactly. That's exactly right. It's just you're changing the story at that point. But I am curious, for anyone who's seeing this right now, if it's after the fact, write in the comments. If it's before, or if it's during the live, let me know right now. Which was more of a disappointment in the Walking Dead universe? Was it what they did with CRM and Rick and The Ones Who Live? Or what they've done with all of the other spin-offs? Like, which is worse for the universe? I'm pretty... I have my answer in my head, and I'm pretty confident with that. But I am interested to know what everyone else thinks. Meh, boom. I hope I pronounced that right. You're saying Walking Dead just needs to be rebooted. Animated Alex also said that earlier. A lot of fans actually want that. I don't see the point of a reboot if it's the exact same story. But I do understand the intrigue of it. But then think to yourself, was The Walking Dead season 1 bad? What would you have changed about it? If it's from the comic, right? So I don't think fans really want a reboot, because why would you do something again that was already great? I think what fans want is a story that's smaller, a story that's more intimate. I think that's what fans want. And you can do that with other characters. Go back to the roots. Go back to other survivors in other parts. You don't need to involve anyone we know. But go back to the roots of what Walking Dead was. Give us some more intimate, smaller stories that are meaningful, like Rick's story was back in season 1. Synthloved DNA says, how far can the franchise go on? Do you think we'll have The Walking Dead stuff by 2040? I honestly don't. I think if I were to make a very bold prediction, I think after season 3 of Dead City, they would say, okay, one more season and we're done. So they'll do 4 seasons of Dead City. After Daryl Dixon season 3, they'll say, okay, we'll do 2 more seasons and then we're done. So they'll do another 2 seasons of Daryl Dixon, and then the final season, if they want to be cheap about it, they'll just do a massive reunion by the end of that, or they'll just end it and they won't do a reunion, and then we would have years of just no Walking Dead content, and then hopefully they come back with something amazing. But I don't think the state of the Walking Dead where it's right now, if it continues this way, I don't think it's going for another 10 years. Not even another like 3-4 years. 4 years is a max if they really want to, milk the heck out of it. Mehbom, animated Alex. Oh, you're just talking to each other. I'm gonna skip those so I get to the questions. Synth-Love DNA. They have fragmented in so many spin-offs. Maybe a movie to end it all could be perfect. No, I don't want a movie. They're never gonna do a movie. They teased the Rick movie for like 5 years. No, I don't want a movie because they're never gonna do it. I don't want something that I know they're never gonna do. AMC is way too cheap to do an actual movie. They don't want to spend the money. They don't want to do the budget. So that's never gonna happen. But I agree, the spin-offs are so disconnected. They're so just broken apart that it feels like you're watching not even the same universe stories. It feels like fans just picked up a spin-off and just started writing. And not even fans, I would say people with lots of money just paid up, got the opportunity to write for The Walking Dead and did it. That's what it feels like. Mais bon, some new character camps and same characters with different iterations can help change the story up. Some new characters, new camps, and same characters with... Yeah, you could do variations of those things, but at the end of the day, it comes down to they've messed it up so bad that how are you going to line it all up? You would almost have to say, okay, let's forget everything. Let's pretend this is where we are right now with all of these characters. Forget the past. And this is what we're dealing with right now going forward. That's almost what you have to do. And that doesn't really work either. Because we saw with Dead City, Daryl Dixon, they're kind of doing that. But it just feels like there's no point. Because it's characters that we care about. Characters that we know. But none of their past. None of the baggage, none of it. You know what I mean? So that almost doesn't work either. But with new characters, you could do that. You could do that because there's no history. There's no connection. So you could build that story at some point. Even if it's like 20 years down the line. Okay, you're building something from here going forward. You could do that. Animated Alex. The Walking Dead spin-off with Rick's horse coming out in 2030. How many seasons do you think the Daryl show will get? And Dead City will get? I just said it. I think Dead City will get 5 seasons. So it's at, what, 3 now? No, 2 now. Actually, Dead City maybe 4. I think Dead City 4 seasons. 2 more. Daryl Dixon, probably 3 more. So season 3, 4, and 5. Animated Alex, never trust what Gimple says. Exactly. He always gives non-answers. Zach Dixon, Masked Ninja, The Walking Dead just feels so boring right now. I absolutely agree with you. 100%. Mebom says characters credit for the show, like Daryl Dixon, for example, I would have I would leave alone and create completely new characters for a reboot. If that's your definition of a reboot, I agree. That is a good reboot. But if a reboot means the same story, just from the beginning again, but with new writers, then what's the point? You know what I mean? Zach Dixon, Masked Ninja. How many years in the timeline do you think everyone will reunite? Will they even reunite? After Scott Gimple's comments about the timeline being dreamlike, I don't even want to try to make sense of the timeline. It doesn't matter. I don't care, and I don't think they care. They're just making stuff up as they go. So, who knows? They might have them reunite in a year and say, oh, this is like 6 months after the original show ended in terms of timeline. But it's like, it can't be. Animated Alex. I've heard that their show has an 8-season contract or something. But if that's true, I doubt it will go that long. Eight seasons? I don't think so. I mean, nothing's impossible, but it'll be trash. It'll be so trash that no one watches. So it'll get canceled. If they want to do 8 seasons, then be prepared for it to get canceled after 6 seasons. Or maybe even 4 seasons. Even Daryl Dixon can't keep a story alive if it's not good. Animated Alex. Even Gimple has given up on his own universe. Yeah, it feels like it. In many ways, it feels like that too. Mehboom. Some big characters could die early, maybe like Glenn, for example, and have other characters die later, like Andrea or Herschel, for a few examples. See, now you're talking having the same characters in a reboot. I don't think that makes sense. I don't think that feels right. Like, what's the point? What's the point? If they're rebooting some of the great stuff that we already got, it's already great. You can only make it worse. It's not impossible, but it's rare for you to do it better than what's already been done if it's already great, right? So you risk the chance of ruining something that was already great. And other parts that were all not great, yes, you could make it better, but at the risk of ruining other parts that were great. So I don't see the purpose of a reboot. Zach Dixon, Masked Ninja. Daryl Dixon getting at least 4 seasons. Yeah, I think 4 to 5 seasons with the Daryl Dixon seems reasonable. Now, I'm not saying that 5 seasons are going to be great. I think, if anything, season 1 of the Daryl Dixon is probably the strongest season, and it's just going to go. It just will go downhill from there. Season 2 all proved that it wasn't better than season 1, and I think season 3 maybe will be slightly better than season 2, but it's still not going to be better than season 1, and I think it's just going to be that same trend till it finishes. Just like Dead City. I don't think they could make another Dead City season better than season 1. Like I said, I had problems with it, but it was the strongest season of Dead City. And I don't think they can do better than that. Not with the current story that they have. Because the story that they have, in a way, is limited. Like, there is a start and an end to the story they're telling. It's not open-ended. At some point, they're going to defeat the group that they're dealing with. So what do you do at that point? Do you just go to another group? Switch over to another group? Then how is this different than the original show? Then what was the point of ending the main show? You know what I mean at that point? Mehboom says, I would make the zombies not die early, unless when it comes to stabbing, it has to be right places. Beating takes a lot of hitting with a lot of energy to bash the whole head in. That I agree with. I think one of the other things is that zombies have become almost routine to kill, and it just takes away a lot of the intensity of any scene that the zombies are involved in. So I absolutely agree with you. Synth love DNA, and they wanted Negan and Maggie to be the focus on the 12th season. To me, that should have been Rick's story. Well done with epic battle. Yeah, they did. In a way, last season of the, not last season, but the last few episodes of The Walking Dead's original show had a lot of Negan and Maggie in it as well. So it was almost like a Dead City season on its own. Animated Alex, I'm amazed Fear the Walking Dead went 8 seasons. Yeah, 4 seasons too long though. They should have just ended after season 4. After the dam collapsed, they should have been like, everyone died, that's it. Or like have 2 survive and then join the originals. Morgan shouldn't have crossed over to the other side. A few of them should have crossed over and Fear should have been cancelled. That's what they should have done. SynthLab DNA, CRM versus Commonwealth and runners involved, and ended there. See, they can't do that now. They can't do that. CRM is good guys now. You can't have them go against Commonwealth anymore. And the runner thing, like I said, I don't think the variants match the Walking Dead universe. But if you want them, sure. But then you're saying like CRM and Commonwealth fight each other, and then the runners are there. That's what you're asking or wanting. That might be cool for like an episode. But like I said, CRM are the good guys. Commonwealth are the good guys. They're not going to be on opposite sides. They're going to be in the same side. And if they're together facing against any threat, it's almost like a joke because they have the biggest militaries together. Alright, so we are probably going to go for another 5 minutes, and that'll be the end of the stream. It was a great stream so far, some great questions. I do have somewhere to be though. I do have to get going, so only 5 more minutes. I'm going to try to answer these questions rapid fire style. Mehboum says, I would have a virus created in a lab with one scientist whose only intentions were for good, like the character Miles Dyson from Terminator 2, while the other was evil, like from Resident Evil. Now that does sound like an interesting story. Yes, absolutely. Yeah, that does sound. But think, is that a spin-off? Or is that a 1 episode thing? Or 2 episode thing? Or can you carry that type of story for like 4 seasons? I don't think you can. I think it's more of a limited story that you're proposing. Animated Alex, the Walking Dead universe at this point is a walker in itself. Absolutely. Absolutely. You said it best there. Zach Dixon, Masked Ninja, the only way you're going to have Daryl Dixon season 3 or 4 be the best seasons is to introduce the Primrose and Violet team. Even with that, I don't think you're going to make it better. You're just going to introduce more plot holes. Trust me. If you bring those in, you're going to introduce more plot holes because they set some things up that they never actually, satisfied or completed as far as the story goes. SynthLab DNA, I do not believe what happened in the Ones Who Live. That was a dream in Rick's head, and he was really trapped in CRM cell. Oh, so you think it was all a dream? So you kind of agree with the Rick coma thing, but a slightly different way? That would ruin the story even further. I'm sorry, that would just ruin the story even further. Mehboum says, I would have ended Fear after season 3. No joining the main show. Just leave Madison survive the dam explosion and look for her children. Leave it open-ended. Honestly, that might have been a great way to do it. And you have the possibility of bringing Madison, Alicia, Nick in to any of the other, stories that we have in a seamless way. So yeah, I agree. That could have worked very well. Way better than what they did. Animated Alex, looking back at it, Morgan should have never crossed over, and they should have went to the original ending with Fear. Yeah, I agree. Fear should have just ended when Morgan crossed over. Before crossing over, it should have ended. People should have crossed over the other way around. Zach Dixon, Masked Ninja, I am disappointed with how the CRM ended. They could have easily made them the ones responsible for the apocalypse. See, I wasn't even asking for that type of story, but I was asking for resolving 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of the 50 things that they teased, and they did 50% of maybe 2 of them. Zach Dixon, Masked Ninja, Commonwealth, basically another branch of the CRM at this point. Yeah, at this point. Yeah, pretty much. Or the other way around. After the CRM went down the way it did, CRM is a branch of Commonwealth. That's another angle. Animated Alex, at this point, knowing Gimple wouldn't surprise me if he agrees with the Rick Coma story or theory. It could happen. Mehbom, very quick before you go, Walking Dead is joining Dead by Daylight. It's joining Dead by Daylight. What's Dead by Daylight? I don't even know what that is. Let me check that out. Oh, it's a game? After the terrible... Oh yeah, that is the one. I heard that was terrible. I heard that was the worst game ever. Yeah, I was gonna play that and review it on the channel, but the reviews were almost 100% saying that it was trash. Animated Alex, because originally the Clark family was supposed to become villains in the original show. Runners plan for the ending. Showrunners plan for the ending. Yeah, I mean, if they did something where Fear characters, after it ended, let's say none of them died, or most of them, and the story ended in Fear with them in a big community, and then they have their thing. And then in the original show, if the Fear characters, not all of them, but some of them show up as the enemy, as the villains, and there's this big war between the two, that would have been one of the best things in the universe. That would have been something that no other franchise could ever do or would have done, or it's not something that was done before. So it would have been amazing if they did something like that. And then obviously at that point, they have to make the decision. Kill the characters that are the villains, in this case now, or have them redeem themselves. And there's a good story in itself to that. But, yeah, there's no point in arguing that because they didn't do anything remotely close. Alright, you guys are just talking to yourself or between each other at this point, and I do have to get going. So thank you everyone for joining the stream. It was a great stream, some great questions. I appreciate the support. I don't know if the chat ends or if you guys can continue talking, but continue talking if you are, and if you can. Yeah, that's it. I don't know when I'll be back again in another stream, but I'll let you know. Again, maybe an hour or two early, like I did this time. So in case if anyone wants to join up and ask questions, you can. But that's it for this stream. I will catch you on the next one.